Okay, folks. I think we're going to start in on standards and assessment, and then we'll turn to our superintendent's report when we got the right folks, because we want to respect their time. Let's see, what's that? We got Randy mic'd and live. Okay. Chair Booth. Go. Should we go
Thank
to
you,
standards?
Chair Moss.
Okay.
Yes, we're ready. Just as we're looking at the agenda on item number 5, standards and assessment, there are 3 very important information items that I invite you to check your backup on. We were able to recognize 2 very worthy groups of individuals in the agency who are making amazing contributions. And I just want to make sure that you don't miss out on those, like item number 2, that would be 5.2. So read those on your own time. And we're going to now go to action item, the first one, which is 5.4, approval of the child sexual abuse and human trafficking prevention materials as required by Utah Code. And the motion for the board is that the board approves the Boundary Town curriculum and hold on the 3 strands curriculum. Just as an interesting sidelight, Jenny and I did have a meeting, and Jenny stayed with them for a considerable amount of time with the 3 strands folks, and they are very eager to see the new and improved guidelines for curriculum materials in this content area that are going to be coming out probably by October, and want to make the adjustments so they can continue to be approved. Jenny may have other comments, but she spent a goodly amount of time, and appreciate all of her representation of our concerns and efforts. So the motion is that the board approves Boundary Town curriculum and hold on the 3 strands curriculum.
Thank you, Chair Booth. Comments or questions from the board?
I have a question.
Yes, Member Klein.
I'm curious about what you mentioned with your meeting with 3 strands. You said that you talked to them about changes to their curriculum. What about their trainings? Was that discussed? Because there was questionable content, well, content that was not questionable, but that violated R277328, the original version of 328, and surely the current version, as well as it would now violate HB 261. So was that discussed with them?
I see a light from Vice Chair Earl's got a light.
I could speak to that. And yes, I actually have pulled up some of the language on one of the videos, and they recognized that it didn't align with Utah law, and that they actually were adjusting or whatever, so it aligned with Utah law, because it wouldn't align with our current law. So yes.
So not just curriculum, but training also?
Yes, that's accurate. It was the training modules. So
okay.
if you have additional recommendations, you can always email that to them, I'm sure.
They seem very eager to get our feedback. They want our feedback. They do want to be in compliance and provide what we want.
And that's the one where the recommendation from the committee is to hold.
Yes.
For board member clarity, that's the discussion.
So they can get it aligned.
Allow them to adjust. Any other discussion to the motion? Okay, the motion is that the board. Oh,
well, if
yes,
we're
Member Klein.
Sorry, if we're approving Boundary Town, does that not replace 3 strands, or is it possible we could be approving both?
Chair Booth
And using
Vice Chair Earl.
We have had both of these been approved and in use, and they're just being reviewed again. We've had multiple curriculum that have been approved in the past.
So this is not a selection in RFP, it's an approval to put on the list for district use. Am I getting that right? Which can involve more than one in this case.
And in this case, it's not actually curriculum that we're looking at, it's
The
educator
training.
training. There was a little bit of confusion, the way it was put on the site, whether it was curriculum or not, but they have feedback on the curriculum too, so.
But either way, we're not
Um,
looking at this for a contract as the
No,
sole provider.
no.
This is just whether
Nope.
we approve for then
And then-
selection by an LEA on their own.
That's accurate.
Okay.
Can I amend the motion?
That would be in order.
And just add 3 strands curriculum and trainings?
Is there a second?
So just add and trainings to the end.
So the motion would then read that the board approves the Boundary Town curriculum and hold on the three strands curriculum and trainings. Is there
Yeah.
a second?
And actually, could we divide that so they're 2 separate motions?
Well, I
The
think
boundary,
those would be
Town
two
ver-
separate motions, so it's up to you to guide what you'd like to present. I think those are two different.
so
Yeah,
my
here,
motion would
Member
be-
Klein, that'd probably be, there's nothing to divide as it stands, so I think parliamentarily
Okay.
correct would be to make the proposal and then divide. Or do you guys tell me? I guess if you're trying to divide the existing part and then amend one of those, you could probably do it either way. Okay.
yeah, that's
you
what
could
I'm
do it either
trying to
way.
do. So,
Either way.
yeah, so divide the 2
Okay.
and then we'll amend the 1.
All right, so the motion we to divide, I assume you mean divide the part regarding Boundary Town and then the part related to 3 strands, correct?
Correct. That's
And
correct.
the intent is if it's divided, or perhaps if it's not, to then amend 3 strands. Is there a second on the
Yep.
motion to divide?
Yes.
Seconded by Member Bogus. Any further explanation, Member Klein?
No.
Okay, we can put that to a vote. Motion is to divide the motion between approving Boundary Town curriculum and hold on the 3 strands curriculum. That would be the division. With that,
I don't. Patty, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not Boundary Town curriculum. It's the
Training.
training. Right? What's the term? I'm not using the right term. Yeah, training and instruction. So, okay.
well, I guess what's on the floor is to divide the two, and there may be amendments to either of those if it's divided. So the current
Okay.
motion is using the current language to divide between Boundary Town and 3 strands.
Great.
So, Member Booth? Okay. Let's vote.
Yes. This is Klein.
Member Klein's a yes. Member Hymus?
No.
Member Hymus is a no. Oh, Member Klein is a yes.
We're missing 2.
2 more votes.
It's divide.
Motion
Oh,
to-
this is a motion to divide?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, everybody vote the way they wanted. There was a bit of question about the nature of the motion. This is to divide Boundary Town from 3 strands for separate consideration, so. Voting is in. Okay, that vote fails 6-8. The yeses being Chair Moss, Member Booth, Vice Chair Earl, Member Bogus, Member Carey, and Member Klein. So it is not divided. The motion then is as originally framed, and it's subject to discussion or amendment. Who's in line here?
So,
There's nobody in line.
Nobody's in line? Any discussion or?
Member Klein wants to amend the motion.
Member Klein, yes, back to you then.
well, I would amend the motion to include and trainings.
For which it's not been divided, so where would that go in the current motion?
After the 3 strands.
Okay. 3 strands curriculum and trainings, was it?
Right.
I don't think she inserted that after Boundary Town, or did you intend that as well, Member Klein?
No, just after 3 strands, curriculum and training.
Okay, so the motion is to amend to add the words "and training" after the reference to Three Strands curriculum. Any discussion to that amendment to the motion?
So my emotion would be just to add "and trainings," and I would like to vote on that separate from approving.
Well, we'll vote on the amendment. It's not divided, but we will vote on that amendment in its own before approving the underlying language. So any further discussion of that motion? If not, please vote.
Member Klein's a yes.
Klein's a yes. Member Hymas?
Yes.
Member Hymas is a yes. Looking for two more, I think. One more. Okay, that motion passes 10-4. The no votes being Member Lear, Member Reel, Member Wood, and Member Norton. So back to the underlying motion for discussion, question, amendment. Member Booth, is your light on for this? Okay.
No, I'm just waiting for the next one.
Okay. All right. Seeing no further discussion, the motion is that the board approves the Boundary Town curriculum and hold on the Three Strands curriculum and trainings.
I just want to explain my vote when it comes.
Okay. Well, you can go ahead since we're not doing a roll call.
I'm just,
Member
I would
Klein,
just
I
like-
think Member Bogus wanted to explain, then we can turn to you.
So if she's going to discuss the motion, I would go to her first.
Okay, go ahead, Member Klein.
I would just say that I am in favor of holding on Three Strands, but I am not in favor of approving the Boundary Town. And so I will be abstaining since we weren't able to divide.
Okay. Thank you. Member Bogus? did you
Well,
wanna-
and I would offer the same. But I also think there's a real ethical conundrum here with the fact that this was not available to the public. And if we're training our educators in something that's not available to the public to review, I think we've got like just things that we need to consider and grapple with, because we're supposed to be a transparent body, and that just doesn't seem transparent to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody like to address that question? Or, I don't see any takers, I'm sorry.
Why was it not available?
They claimed that there was a copyright issue.
Question of how much of the curriculum was made available to the public. I know there were links and opportunities for the board members to review and vote. What's the level of public, yeah.
So right now,
Deputy-
yeah, Patty Norman, Deputy Superintendent of Student Achievement. Thank you for the question. Right now, it was made available to our board members. It's not made available to the public per se. It would be available to an LEA if they select it as a vendor that they'd like to preview. And then it's made available to their folks as they're looking through it in possible adoption of that as something they would like to use.
All right, thank you, Deputy Norman. Okay, voting is open. The
I would-
motion- Yes, Member Klein.
I would
Yes.
just, thank you. I would just say on a topic that is of such a sensitive nature, parents absolutely should have the ability to review this curriculum before it is presented. Are they able to opt out, or is it an opt-in?
So my understanding is this is teacher training, not parent training.
That's my understanding. Can anybody answer that question?
It is.
Member Reel, did you have a response to the question?
It's not the curriculum, we made an error.
Member Earl may be able to answer this more appropriately, but I do just want to mention that this is an opportunity for adults to be trained and to look for signs, and there's a huge importance, and we have 1 in 7 children in Utah who deal with issues of abuse, and when we focus too much on the parents, I think we're doing a disservice to these kids when oftentimes it's family members that are the ones that are perpetrators. And so the focus isn't necessarily only on
Your
the,
student.
on the parents, but it's on adults in teacher, that includes in community members, it includes teachers, it includes all adults.
Thank you, Maria
We,
Bashir.
we actually need to make a change, because it wasn't the curriculum we vetted when it came to Boundary Towns, it was the training, the adult training.
Okay.
So
is
we
that a
didn't
proposed
review,
amendment?
yeah, it was just an error on our side.
Well, so we
Is
had,
there a
we had the
curriculum?
vote almost open on this, but we didn't quite get there. So is that a proposed amendment?
It would have to be an amendment, otherwise I don't know what we're actually passing, because we didn't vet Boundary Town curriculum.
Okay, so what's the amendment?
It would be adult trainings, or just?
Instructional materials. Instructional materials, you could say trainings, yeah.
Probably trainings, because that's what we vetted, was
Yes.
was trainings. So I
So
would
the
change,
three-
so strike curriculum under, where it says Boundary Town curriculum, it would need to be stricken and put trainings there, because it was the adult trainings that we looked at, not the curriculum.
Did Three Strands include curriculum?
Well, that's where it was confusing, because it did have all of that on there.
Okay, so the amendment there might have captured everything. It references now curriculum and trainings, but in this case of Boundary Town, it's replaced curriculum with trainings.
Yeah.
That's the proposed motion at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that captures kind of what was reviewed and considered. Okay, so the proposed amendment is to
So
replace curriculum with trainings. Yes. Dr. Norman?
Yes, thank you. It's not the curriculum, so we do need to put the training. So because of the purpose of the audience, and right now the audience for these materials is the educator. And so curriculum is for students. And so we didn't review curriculum because we weren't reviewing it for the students. The other question that was asked is this opt-in? And so again, this is the educator is the audience. And so it's the educator would receive the training. And then when it does come to the student portion of that, which is not what we're reviewing right now, that is something that is opt-in.
Got it. Okay.
is that the student portion available to parents to review?
Dr. Norman? Is there a student portion?
She just said there was.
Oh,
So that's not what we're reviewing at this time. They're only reviewing the educator portion of the trainings. There would be curriculum, but that would need to be reviewed at a different time next year when that is going to be coming through. So they might have included the curriculum as part of the teacher training, but that is not as a complete set. Like, this is what could be provided, but it is not a part of what was approved. It's just the teacher training. Does that make sense? So the curriculum piece
Yeah.
would be approved later by
Yeah.
this board.
Okay, so for
My
Boundary
question
Town.
is,
Yes.
my
Member
question
Klein.
is, when we do bring that up, is that also have copyright restrictions? The student portion, is that going to be available for parents to review? Or in approving this, are we down the road tying our hands and saying, approving something that parents won't be able to see when it comes to the portion that's presented to their kids?
Dr. Norman?
Thank you. So this is copyrighted materials, which means that under that copyright, they're not going to release everything to the public because it could be then copyright infringement. What would occur and what does occur in our LEAs in these sorts of things is, again, it would come to our board. They would be able to review it in a setting as what you were able to do this time. Then if a school selects this as something that they would like for their patrons, their parents, their folks to be able to see it, they would probably put that, as I'm thinking about one of the LEAs that does this, they put this in their parent portal so that it creates that automatic sign-in where it has that hub for them to be able to say, I'm signing in as a parent and I would like to view this curriculum. So there's different options. We have some of our LEAs that have parents come in. We have some of our LEAs do different things. We don't have haven't had, so I won't say that it can't be done. But usually because it is copyrighted materials, they're not going to put that out there as it's a highly competitive area, and we haven't been able to do that in the past.
Question.
Okay.
So Dr. Norman, let me make sure I understand this. Right now, a parent can't view the curriculum. We would be viewing the curriculum and we would decide whether or not it actually even goes out for usage at all. Once it's decided yes, if that's what we choose to decide, then a district could use that curriculum and a parent could access that through their district. So they're not restricted in that. Like any other curriculum, they'd be able to access it. It may not be published on their website, but they could, okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay. So the motion is to replace the word curriculum with trainings. And it still needs a second. Thank you. Seconded by Member Carey. Any final discussion of the motion? I forgot we didn't have a second when we. Fair enough. We did the discussion. Okay, board members, let's vote.
Hymus is a yes.
Member Hymus is yes. Member Klein?
Amy, yes.
Klein's a yes.
Yes.
Looking for one more. Oh, missing Member Davis. Okay, that passes unanimously. Member Davis has stepped away. Member Green is not with us, so thank you. That, let's see. That brings up the underlying motion then. That was just the amendment. So we've had two amendments, just to keep it straight. After 3 strands curriculum, we added add training and trainings for Boundary Town, replaced curriculum with trainings. So the motion then is that the board approves the Boundary Town trainings and hold, no, yes, on the 3 strands curriculum and trainings. Final discussion? If not, please vote.
Hymus is yes.
Hymus is yes. Klein?
Abstain.
Member Klein abstains. Let's see, we're still missing Member Davis. We need one more, I think. Member Hymus, were you a yes?
Yes.
He's a yes. Okay. That passes 11-2 at the, or excuse me, 11 in favor, 2 abstentions, being members Bogus and Klein. Okay, I think that concludes that
Our
section.
first item. Here we go.
Should
Racing
we-
right along.
What's
Our
that?
second item.
Hold just 1 second, Chair Booth. Did we want to do the superintendent's report? We had that for one. We launched into this, but did we have folks with time certain that we need to?
No, that was just employment, so we're good.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Okay.
We'll come back.
Good. We'll continue then with our second action item, having to do with R277-630, sections 1, 2, and 3, child sex abuse and human trafficking prevention, training, and instruction amendment. And the motion for the board is that the board approve R277-630, draft 3, sections 1, 2, and 3 on second and final reading. You'll remember that in our last month's meeting, we did approve sections 4, 5, and 6, but we needed a few adjustments with 1, 2, and 3, which have now been made. And so we're now bringing this forward to for your approval.
Okay. Discussion of the motion. Seeing none, please vote.
Hymus is yes.
Hyman says yes. Member Klein?
Hang on. Yes.
Member Klein is a yes. And that passes 13-1, the no vote being Member Bogus. Back to you, Chair Booth.
Thank you. The next item has to do with a sunset item, the Education Interim Committee sunset item, section 53F-5-219, Local Innovation Civics Education Pilot Program. The recommended action is the board recommends the legislature not allow Utah Code section 53F-5-219 Local Innovations Civics Education Pilot Program to not sunset and continue through 2026. Okay, I think
Got
that
it,
we have an
double.
extra knot there. Which knot do we want to remove?
Let's see here.
Recommends.
To not allow it to sunset, so this would be the knot that you would want to remove.
Okay, so we remove the not before sunset.
Or
So
to
it's
allow it to continue.
Not allow Utah code to sunset and continue through 2026. And
Not
the-
allow the code to sunset and to continue or allow it to continue? Maybe allow? Yeah, to not sunset and to allow it to continue. Not allow Utah code to sunset and allow it to continue? Does that
Yeah,
capture
that
what you're
sounds
after?
great. Perfect.
Okay.
You ever consider being a writer?
All right, do we have that language up? Okay, that's the motion. Any discussion of the motion? If not, please vote. Member Klein?
Hymus is yes.
Hymus is yes. Member Klein?
No.
Member Klein is a no. Okay, let's see. Looking for 4 more, I think. 3 more. That was just a technical. No, just technical language. We got 2 more votes. Did we get Hymus and Klein?
Oh, did I vote? No, I did.
Klein. Let's see, we got Hymus and Klein. We're missing 2. We're missing Davis and Hart. And where did they go?
We are right here.
I'm just, getting goofy, sorry. Question, yeah. Okay, that, we're still missing 1, but okay. 12-2 in favor, 12 in favor, 2 opposed, Bogus and Klein. And we had a question from
I just
Vice
wa-
Chair Earl.
Is it okay if I ask a clarifying question, just to make sure, from Robert Austin? Just on, my question is this, or I can ask it to the chair. I guess you can direct it.
I'll
Yeah.
channel it
It
on.
just, more or less, the continuation of this for the next 2 years is to finish out what's already started, right? Are we adding new programs on this? We're finishing out what started, and then this is the evaluated program to see if there is any gains or whatever in it. Is that accurate?
This is Robert Austin, Humanities Coordinator at State Board of Ed.
Yeah. You're on.
Okay. Yes, it is. Although, if there is an LEA that cannot expend the funds that they'd initially been allocated to, then we do want to be able to, this year, finish up with reallocating those funds to an LEA that might make a better use of those funds. But the
That answer the question.
gist of this is for the evaluation of the program.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Member Bogus first, was it?
So I appreciate the question, Member Earl, because I'm wondering why we drafted legislative code with a sunset date before the end of a program date. That's where my brain is now.
I don't know if I could maybe, because of COVID and some other things, they didn't get put into place, and so it ended up pushing them out a year further before some of the programs started. Is that accurate? I guess he can finish answering it, but that's my understanding, so.
Yes, that's accurate. And it's a 3-year pilot.
He needs a mic.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Counterintuitive, right? So it was a 3-year pilot program with a built-in sunset at the end of the 3 years. It makes, for our estimation, more sense to sunset a year later so we can make sure that we continue with the evaluation of the pilot and still have the funding in place to continue that evaluation.
So then I have a follow-up. Wouldn't it make sense to recommend the sunset then? To extend it 1 year and recommend the sunset? Yeah, I understand that.
Is that a question for Mr. Austin, for
Well, I
Vice Chair
think
Earl?
it does, is
If-
it not saying that, to sunset and to allow it to continue through 2026?
Right, because the sunset was June of 2025, and we want it to extend for one more year.
They're extending the sunset to 2026.
Yeah.
So as I read it, the motion doesn't reconcile with the information on the form, but I would just still stand by my vote.
Okay.
Okay, did we have another hand up? Member Klein? Not hearing Member Klein.
Sorry, no.
Okay. Okay, so the motion then,
Yeah.
wait,
voted,
we
we're done.
did, I'm sorry. We're on, that was just clarifying after the fact. Back to you, Chair Booth. Yes.
Okay. Now we have,
Wait, did that last one pass?
yes,
Yes.
we're now on R 277419-2, Pupil Accounting Amendment. This is an opportunity to, based on a change of definition of YIC in, according to legislation from the 2024 session, YIC used to mean youth in custody. The revised language changes YIC to youth in care, and those changes are made throughout the rule. And so the motion for the board is that the board approve R 277-419 to pupil accounting draft 1 on second and final reading.
I have a question.
Okay, Member Klein?
I know this has probably been discussed before, but if you can refresh my memory, youth in care, does that mean that these youth are no longer in custody? Simply by changing the name? Or are they still in custody?
Yeah.
Dr. Norman and Member Bogus both have hands up to explain. Did you want to take Dr. Norman?
All right. I don't know. Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman. So right now, the overarching term is youth in custody, and so that includes, at this current time, before this vote is made, youth in custody includes youth in care, which includes foster students and other youth that might be in the custody of the state or in the care of the state. So this changes the overarching term to youth in care, and then the more finite terms could be youth in custody or youth who is in the foster care system or youth that. So it just changes the overarching term to the youth in care. And then they would still, if they're still in custody, they're still a youth in custody, but they're in care of the state.
Okay, follow up.
Sure.
Can we get a list of all of the more discrete terms or the different youth that are identified under the overarching term of youth in care specifically? So is it ever expanding, or is it set in stone what these different groups are that fall under youth in care?
Is that for Dr. Norman?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
let me-
if it's any youth who is under the Department of Health and Juvenile Justice Services. So if they're receiving juvenile justice services or under the Department of Health Services, Human Services, Health and Human Services, then that would be considered a youth in care.
Okay, so my question is, if it includes Health and Human Services, that could potentially expand to include almost all youth if youth are receiving mental or medical health services at school then, right? Or that are accessing Medicaid funds to pay for telehealth or mental health or student school-based health centers, et cetera. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Dr. Norman?
Thank you. This is a discrete set of students who are in these categories. We can follow up later with you, Board Member Klein, to give you a list of what that exactly includes, but it is not inclusive of all students receiving Medicare services or SNAP eligible benefits or those types of things. It's about those that are in the care of the state.
Care of the state as opposed to being in a state school. The provision of some
Receiving.
mental health services in the schools doesn't count. It's defined
It's
as
full-time care of the state, is
a-
that correct? It's full-time care of the state. So-
full-time care of the state. Okay, so that's the distinction. Okay.
So that doesn't include in loco parentis while they're at school.
No.
Seeing shaking of heads. Dr. Norman, do you want to introduce Benji?
Yes, Benji.
Sorry, Benji. There you go. Now you need a red. Yeah.
Okay, Benji Carrier on the YIC team. Am I still answering the in locos parentis question? Is that what you want a response to?
Yes, if you could, we probably want to just make sure everybody knew who you were because we appreciate your assistance with Dr. Norman and wanted to know. Suggest introduce yourself. But yeah, but if you had anything further on that question, that would be great. Yes. Expand the acronym describing his
Well-
portfolio, or
No, I said YIC, so I guess as of this moment,
Oh, you
that would be
explained
youth
the
in
port-
custody.
okay,
If you vote, then it would be youth in care, I would assume. That's how that works, but
okay,
since you haven't voted on it as of this moment, youth in custody coordinator.
got it. Okay, thank you. That is helpful. Well, we're just trying to make sure we know all the moving pieces and parts of where the lines are. Thank you.
So like maybe in 3
And-
seconds it'll be different.
And
but-
yes, acronyms are, a big deal here. So thank you. Okay. Any further questions? Well, we've got Benji here. Any further discussion of the motion? Let's see.
I have a follow-up, one last follow-up.
Yes, Member
Chair.
Klein.
If the definition in code for youth in care changes to expand the groups that fall under it, will that automatically, I guess that would automatically expand that definition within our rules. So it could expand out potentially. Is that correct? To be more than what it is now.
Elise, did you want to answer that one? I see Patty pointing somewhere. Trying to follow my traffic directors. Thank you, Elise.
I'm sorry, could I get a repeat of the question, please? I missed part of it.
Yeah, one more time, Member Klein.
Well, I'm just curious. Well, we didn't. I guess we didn't get an answer on the in loco parentis unless it was just a flat no that I missed. But my concern is that the youth in care definition could expand to include more and more students than what it currently covers, simply by a change in code. That my worry is that we're going to start trying to be more inclusive of what falls under state care.
Okay. So Elise Nui, Policy Advisor, thank you for the question. So this phrase is very tightly defined in code. And so the youth in care refers directly within our rules back to code as saying anyone that the state board is directly responsible for the education of, and that includes 3 categories. The first is if they're in the Department of Health and Human Services, so this is not receiving services from them, but within the care of. And then second, if they're in the custody of a Native American tribe, or being held in a juvenile detention facility. So it has to be within one of those 3 very distinct categories in which there is custody involved. So, and ongoing care. So the answer to your question is no, it cannot include in loco parentis, and it cannot be expanded without a change to this piece of the code. So that is not something that we could do. That would have to be the job of the legislature.
All right, thank you, Elise. Member Bogus, or was it Member Davis? Member Davis. Nope, Bogus, then Davis. There we go.
Thank you, sir. Chair, I'm wondering, when we talk about care, obviously parental rights have been either suspended or terminated in some capacity. So that means the state would have educational rights to the child, medical rights to the child, and some form of a caseworker or a foster parent would be engaging in parental consent on behalf of these children. Would that be a true statement?
In most situations, yes. In the majority of the situations, yes. There are some cases where through the mental health, sorry, what is the, I'm thinking of the right term, the, yeah, I mean, like in the state, well, yeah, in the state hospital and the local mental health authority, that's the term I was looking for, have recommended that the best care for the child would be to be in some type of residential or day treatment facility. So the parent still has parental rights. They're not technically in the custody, but it has been recommended in collaboration with the parent that a student needs significant care that would happen throughout the school day for a length of time. So in some cases, they're not in the custody of the state, and that's where that first part of the definition of saying through the services of the Department of Health and Human Services. So then there are cases in which they are in foster care or in a juvenile detention facility, and in that case, the parental rights have been suspended, and those fall under a caseworker that are taking that on for a length of time.
Small follow-up, Chair.
Sure.
So as I'm listening to you, I'm taking some notes here.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to me like this word makes things more blurry and less clear. Would that be truthful? Because to me, there's a distinct separation between in a state facility receiving services authorized by a parent as opposed to a ward of the state or in the custody of the state. And it seems like we're blurring those boundaries, which I think that's where some of the consternation comes from myself included in that. But they're just very significantly different. So would that be a true statement that the boundaries are getting blurred here?
I don't believe that they are, and this was already changed in statute, and so our intent right here is to just bring our board rule in line with what the statute says, where it was changed to be youth in care, which is what our state partners, that's the term that they use, and so we're just trying to align with our state partners. So the areas of the definition, the three areas that Elise Newey read to you, those did not change. The one and only thing that changed is just the word from custody to care. And so that's just to be in alignment with the statute.
Okay, Member Davis? And then I think Member Klein, we can come to you. Member Davis?
Yeah, from what I'm understanding, we have no jurisdiction over the content of this. It is all in code. And the name change was made for semantics, really, I'm guessing, because it just sounds better than custody. I mean, custody sounds like you've been arrested and you're in handcuffs and now you're in custody of the police. So all this is the same as it's always been. They just have a word that sounds more appropriate to define the very specific groups of students in code that have always been defined as such. But this is a name that is more appropriate. And that's all we're voting on today, is matching our rule to the name change, not all the content changes, but the name change in code. Is that correct?
That would be correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other lights. Oh, Member Klein, I apologize. Let's go and then we'll get to a vote.
So I'm just curious, when we have something like this come before us, I think it's good that we are made aware, but I don't know why we are asked to have a vote on it, or why it doesn't go on to the consent calendar. If there's nothing there's nothing to argue or debate, it just has to be done because it has to align with a change in code, a minor change in code. I don't know why that doesn't just go on the consent calendar, or why it has to come to us at all if we don't really have any choice in the matter. I think putting it on the agenda invites debate when there's really no debate to be had. Although I am grateful for the opportunity to get more clarification and information on this item. Something to think
Okay.
about for the future.
Yes, and thank you to our staff for walking us through this. And, you know, there are various levels. I'll just, little commentary here. I mean, we get something from the legislature. There's sometimes it's easy and sometimes there's levels of judgment calls to be made. And so I think our staff try to bring it to our attention and let us learn from the process. And thanks for your thoughtful response and the opportunity to debate. We are, I think, set to vote. I don't see any further light. So the motion is the board approves R277-709. Education program serving youth in custody, draft 1 on second and final reading. Member Klein?
Yes.
Member Klein's a yes. Member Bogus? I'm sorry. I was looking at your name and
Member Hymus is yes.
got thrown off. Member Hymus is a yes. And let's see, we got 2 more. I jinxed you by calling your name. Okay, that passes unanimously, 14-0. All right, back to Chair Booth.
Thank you. We're now on to the action item R277-705-2, Secondary School Completion and Diplomas Amendment. The motion for the board is that the board approve R277-705-2, Secondary School Completion and Diplomas, draft 1 on second and final reading. Again, this is, as you see in the background, is the passage of HB, House Bill 82, is being amended to change the definition of YIC, as we've just discussed. And now this has to do with the diplomas and secondary school completion. So once again, it's just making adjustments with YIC to mean youth in care.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, please vote.
Hymus is yes.
Hymus
Klein is a yes.
Hymus and Klein are both yes. Okay, that passes 13-1. Actually, 1 abstention being Member Bogus and 13 in affirmative. Okay, back to you, Chair Booth.
Okay, so I think next is it 709? Or are we done that? Let's see,
We just did 709, didn't we?
705. So this is yet another one having to do with youth
How many
in
YICs do we have?
care.
We've done 2, haven't we?
We've done that one?
There's 3? No. Well, okay.
Well,
We've done 2 and there appear
709
to be 2.
is about YIC as well. Maybe we did it already.
Which ones have we done, folks? I think we did 2.
419 and 705, we have 709. Per pupil accounting, it
Okay.
doesn't say why. It says it.
Ah, that, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
so we are on 709.
Yes, I can.
Motion for the board that the board approve R277-709, Education Program Serving Youth in Custody, draft 1 on second and final reading. So will it be titled now, Education Program Serving Youth in Care?
Okay,
that
seeing
right?
no lights, please vote. Member
Hymus
Hymus?
is yes. Yes.
Member Hymus is yes. Member Klein?
This is 709.
Correct, yes, item 10.
Yes.
Member Klein is a yes. And we've got 4 more. Klein's a yes. 2 more, Vice Chair Hart. That will do it. That passes 13-1 with a no vote being Member Bogus. Back to you, Chair Booth.
Thank you. The final action item, it has to do with our strategic goals. And after discussion, the motion for the board was that the board adopt the following goal language from the Standards and Assessment Committee for our goal. Standards and Assessment Committee supports the design of academic standards and measurement tools to elevate K-12 educational excellence, resulting in mastery of foundational knowledge, application of logical reasoning, and achievement of personal goals.
Any discussion to
We
that?
did
Oh, sorry.
have
Go ahead.
some discussion, and we still were kind of wondering and questioning. There have been a few follow-up conversations since then. I'm not certain if anyone would like to make an amendment to this before we vote from the committee. Has it progressed far enough that you would like to make an amendment?
Thank you, Chair Booth, and we had a good discussion about this last time. Appreciate the additional conversation. Vice Chair Earl.
Yeah, I'd just make an amendment that we strike K-12.
Is there a second?
Yes.
It's been seconded. Back to you.
Yeah, and I'll just speak to that. We can add on the P, we can add on larger. It doesn't change the fact that we still have to adhere to whatever laws we're given. And that's what we're still, we still need to do that. A lot of when I went through our website not too long ago, actually the first of the week, we have K-12 all over the place. So when we say, well, we won't, if we only have K-12, then we can't work with other programs. Yeah, we have to work with other programs. So it doesn't make sense. I just think remove it. This says this is the direction we're headed with whatever we're given and however this is how we're going to be working with the laws and rules that we are obligated to do within the state of Utah. So that's what I would do.
Okay, discussion of that motion to amend?
Can we
Seeing
see it
none.
all in context?
Member
Would you like
Klein-
it read?
Yeah,
Which
I
would-
could read it, or you can't see anything then.
Scroll
correct?
up on the screen.
Oh, there you go.
Ah. So the motion to amend is just to remove K-12, the word or phrase K-12. It would say elevate educational excellence resulting in, et cetera.
Okay, I do have a question. Is the Standards and Assessment Committee going to go back through all of the state standards and realign, or amend them to align with this?
Chair Booth, Vice Chair Earl, anybody want to take that on?
As they come up, this would be the criteria. So every year we reevaluate, we say, is there anything that needs to be put into the program, right? Be put into I'm not even saying it, the cycle rubric. And then as they came up, then this would be the criteria to be used. So the answer is yes, but the answer is also no, right? It's yes, but it's as we evaluate them and reevaluate them, they would have a different lens or a more clear lens, however you want to categorize it.
After spending as much time on the standards as I have, I just cannot see that this is going to substantially change. There would have to be massive change to the standards, and I don't see that happening. To me, this is kind of meaningless. It doesn't really do anything, so I'll be voting no.
Okay, Member Davis?
Just a question, I guess. So when we're looking at future standards and such, this wouldn't be the only driving force of those. It would be the whole mission, vision, goals, strategies, the whole set of all the things we ultimately land on that would drive all of us in our committees, correct? We're not going to just narrow down to you need to memorize 2 + 2 and be able to apply it in a grocery store. Like, that's not what we're doing here, right?
Well,
Right.
as is our policy, it would go to a committee, right? Then a parent review committee. Then those recommendations come to us. Board members can make recommendations. So the answer, yes, it would be just that, because this doesn't get away from the other practices we have, right?
Sure, but the direction would come from the whole thing in its entirety of what we land on, not just the standards and assessment contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This just helps
Thank
with
you.
the focus area, so,
Correct.
yeah.
Chair.
Okay.
This is what I was
Chair
saying.
Booth?
It's kind of
Well,
meaningless.
hold on.
We have
Okay.
to follow all of that
Member Connolly, got
still, and it
member,
doesn't.
sorry, Chair Booth's got a turn.
Thank you, Chair Moss. In our last meeting, we were kind of refining. We talked about grammar, logic, rhetoric. We never did find a way to really include rhetoric. We kind of skipped from grammar to logic and then jumped to the achievement of personal goals, which I think is great, but I really like the rhetoric piece, which is basically the literacy framework that we approved in '24, that there's a nice place on our website. If you read the definition of literacy, it's basically the definition that we have in our framework on the website is rhetoric. And so I wanted to at least today consider a possible amendment to this amended motion. It might, and I sent it to Kelsey a minute ago. It might say, elevate Utah educational excellence with academic standards and measurement tools which promote mastery of foundational knowledge, application of logical reasoning, refinement of literacy skills, and achievement of student goals.
Let me just, Chair Booth, clarify. Did we vote on the K-12? We have not. So I think that would be a separate amendment. I wasn't sure if it would amend the K-12 part, but I think it's separate. So perhaps we could hold that and vote on, unless you see it differently, our parliamentarian team. That would be not an amendment to the K-12, but a separate. Okay. So thank you. Let's hold that and wrap up with any discussion on the K-12 piece. Member Lear?
I am still wrestling, and I had this deja vu moment of, I know we belabored this, and then now suddenly it was back again, and we were belaboring it again. So this K-12 issue, and I hear what you're saying, and I'm understanding we're going to have a number of different board members, maybe more, maybe fewer, we don't know, but there are a number of areas where the board has specific jurisdiction, and I don't want to believe beyond K-12, and I don't want to believe that somebody's going to say, nope, we can't talk about that, it's not K-12. For instance, preschool students that have IEPs and or that are connected to the USDB. Those are specifically our students in our programs. Same is true with higher ed students, or not higher ed, but students with disabilities who are not really grade 12 students, but they're served by the public school system until they're 21 and a half or 22. So I want to be sort of reasonable about this. I don't want to obsess. I don't want to nitpick, but I also don't want someone to then say that's not the board's responsibility a year from now or 2 years from now. So does somebody want to assure me that this is meant generally, and that it could still encompass those are just the groups I can think of off the top of my head. There are probably others that are beyond the K-12, technically beyond the K-12 scope. So somebody help me.
Well, so my understanding would be this would cover what we are given from the legislature to exercise general supervision and oversight over. It would be a broad, without the K-12. We would still be defined by whatever our role is under the law. But I don't know, maybe the maker. My understanding is it would.
No, unless the legislature is going to remove what's already in law for us to do, we have to do that. So I'm not sure
Then why are we saying K-12? Why are we
We're
not
not,
saying?
we're removing it.
We are removed to, I
Yeah,
don't
you
see
spoke
it.
to the amendment, so.
I don't see it's crossed out there.
That's the proposal, is to
Strike
take out
K-12 from the-
K-12.
Oh, I
S-
didn't read
so that
far
it
enough.
would-
Lazy reader, sorry.
No,
It
but
would-
you spoke well to the abolishing of
It
it,
was definitely germane.
or the striking of it.
We
And unknowingly that it was. All right, so
It-
I have a question.
okay, thank you.
Comment.
Sorry, I apologize for your time. Thank you.
No, okay, Member Klein.
Yeah, my concern is the opposite, that taking it out opens it up so that we can kind of cover anything that may come beyond K-12, and where there may be discrete responsibilities beyond K-12, they should probably be listed discreetly, because this just opens it up wide. And in reading many documents, one just last night from UNESCO on lifelong learning and what they talk about with adult education and all these other areas where they're literally trying to expand out education to include everyone throughout the lifespan, to make it lifelong learning. And this is the language, much of the language they use in the document is language we are using that looks like we are moving in that direction and trying to align. And so my concern is that by taking that out, we are opening ourselves up to moving in that direction where there are no boundaries, and we can forever be expanding our jurisdiction. And so I would be against.
Okay, Member Reel.
Yeah, I'd like to call the question. If we can.
Seeing no other lights, your question might just be enough to bring it to a vote. I see no others, so let's vote. The motion then is that the board, the motion is to take out K-12, so, sorry, discrete amendment on the floor, and then I think Member Booth has another amendment, but that's the one before the body. Please vote. Member Hymas?
Yes.
Member Klein?
No.
Member Klein is a no. Member Hymas says yes. We're missing 6. Klein was a no. Hymas was a yes. There we go. 2 more. And 1 more. Okay, that passes 14 yeas and 3 noes, the noes being Member Straight, Member Bogus, and Member Klein. Okay, so the underlying motion has been amended. Chair Booth, Member Booth, you had a proposed amendment as well. Back to you. We put that one on hold. Did we have the language of that from when you read it earlier?
It's right there.
Is it up there? Okay. All right, so Chair Booth's amendment is
Starting with a quotation mark, so elevate Utah educational excellence with academic standards and measurement tools which promote mastery of foundational knowledge, application of logical reasoning, refinement of literacy skills, and achievement of student goals.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Seconded. Member Straight. Further explanation to speak to the motion, Chair Booth?
This just adds, it's basically what was there before, but it adds the rhetoric piece, which is refinement of literacy skills, keeping all the others that were already there.
Okay, any discussion to the motion? Member Davis?
It deleted it. It deleted it.
I'd like to amend to add achievement of student current and post-secondary goals, but I don't think people would vote for it. So I'd like to amend to say achievement of current and future student goals.
Okay. So that's in order. It's amendment to the amendment. instead of achievement of student goals, it would say achievement of student current and future goals, or would it be current and, well, you're the master of.
Future student goals, is that what you said? Student.
Achievement of current and future student goals.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
So student has to move before goals.
Okay. Does that get it, Chair Booth? Or, I'm sorry, Member Davis.
Yes.
So this is an amendment to Member Booth's amendment to amend the final line of the goal as follows: achievement of current and future student goals. Any discussion of the motion? If not, let us vote. Oh,
I have,
Member Klein?
if
Yes.
she's not going to speak to it, I will.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Achievement of future student goals? Like,
It's current and
What on
future
earth?
student goals is the way it was finally
well,
formulated.
I know, but what is the purpose of saying future student goals? And is that the us ensuring that students are reaching their goals in the, like, down the road when they're not even maybe with us anymore? What is that? That doesn't make any sense. It's one thing to have a student set a goal and have them achieve it in your class, but what is a future student goal?
May I respond?
Response, yes, Member Davis.
Thanks. It references back up to the beginning of the main motion, which is the things that we do now in our schools are helping students to achieve goals. Maybe they want to improve their reading fluency by 10%, and they achieve those goals. But we're also creating foundational knowledge and reasoning skills and literacy skills so that they can be successful in their post-secondary opportunities.
Thank you, Member Davis. Further discussion to the motion?
I do have a question. Is this a strategic plan goal for Standards and Assessment Committee specifically, or is this like revisiting our vision and mission that we already did and approved? I'm
This
just
is-
confused because it sounds like we're reinventing the wheel again.
This is not mission and vision. This flows from it, and it's a focus area brought by Standards and Assessment to the full board for adoption to guide the work of Standards and Assessment, but with approval of the full board.
It just doesn't, it sounds comprehensive though. It doesn't sound specific and targeted. It sounds like an overall mission of the entire, education system.
Okay, thank you.
As far as I just feel like we keep adding words and nothing adds any substantial meaning or clarity or actionable items. It's just more word salad. Sorry.
Okay,
It
thank
just
you.
is.
Thank you. Further discussion of the motion? Okay, if not, please vote. Again, we're voting on Member Davis's amendment to Member Booth's amendment. So the goal would add achievement of current and future student goals. Let's go ahead and vote.
Member Klein is a no.
Member Booth, I'm sorry, Member, why do I keep looking over here and calling up there? Member Hymas.
Hymas is a no.
Okay, Member Hymas is a no. Member Klein is a no. We got two more. Okay, that is a tie, so the motion fails. The no votes being Member Norton, Member Bogus, Member Klein, Member Carey, Member Hymas, Vice Chair Earl, and Vice Chair Hart. Okay, so we're back to Chair Booth's underlying motion, which is framed up on the board to amend. Sorry? Oh. The motion is to amend the goal language as follows, quote, elevate Utah educational excellence with academic standards and measurement tools which promote mastery of foundational knowledge, application of logical reasoning, refinement of literacy skills, and achievement of student goals. Any final discussion? No, please vote. Oh, Member Carey.
Member Klein is a no.
Sorry, Member Carey does have a comment.
I just, like in January, there's going to be new members here. In 2 years from then, there'll be other members. And I just look at this language, and I'm okay if we want to say, look, this is what standard and assessment does. Or like tomorrow in law and licensing, we're going through this same, we're going to do the same thing. We're just slower. But we're going to do the same thing. And I thought the process was focused on what does your committee do? But when I read this, it's almost like, what does your committee prioritize? Like, what are your metrics? And I'm okay if the committee itself wants to huddle up and say, you know, our committee, this is what we value. But now, I guess it's going to be formalized in policy or rule. I don't even know. But the fact that we're voting on it leads me to believe that this is going to survive even when that committee changes. And I just don't think that's something that we should impose on another committee. And I'm just saying standards and assessment because that's the matter before us. But I'm going to be a no because, again, I'm all for saying law and licensing, this is what we do. But when we start saying, hey, this is our priority, the committee can do that. And they don't need to come here to do that. They can just decide. But when we vote on it, I'm assuming that that means there's got to be another vote to change it. And I just don't think that's something that I can support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Carey. Member Davis? You still have your line on?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding because Member Carey's comments now made me question what we're doing in general. But my understanding is that each committee was to choose a goal to suggest to the full board to be included to our mission, vision, goals, and strategies, whole document and plan for the whole board to move forward. That it wasn't supposed to be a goal that was in specific direction to what a committee does. It was it can lean toward the content that committee typically works on. Like we kind of moved toward a finance goal because we were in finance committee, but it wasn't to determine what our committee does. It was to determine kind of the strategic plan of the full board to be included in that. Which is it?
Well, the basic idea was to include committees in the setting of these focus areas or goals so that in addition to these top line ideas of what our priorities are, the committees played a part in that. And so they proposed something, became part of that overall strategic plan. So I think it does guide the committee. It comes from the committee, so the full board says, okay, that's what you're going to focus on. That's where you see your priorities, your focus, what you do. Not just define, you know, here's what finance does. We track finance. But we talked about efficiency and transparency, right? So I think in that same vein, it basically brings the committees into that overall strategic planning process with some focus to guide what they do. That was the idea. So Vice Chair Earl?
Yeah, and I just add one more thing to that because it's the idea of that cascading come from our mission and vision down to some focus areas and allowing staff now to say, okay, looking at what they do, and that was one of the deficits of the previous goals is that they were somewhat limited. Agree with them or not, whatever you stand on those, but they were early learning, teacher, right? It was these 4 areas. This allows, so in finance, it allows the different departments to say, okay, are we effective? Are we, you know what I mean? They can look back to our focus areas and say, how can we align with that? How can we meet that? So, anyways, that's how I would see it and allow them to engage in the goals that they are working on within their unit and propose those in a way, look, this is the metrics. This is the way we're going to move forward so we can get to making sure we have foundational knowledge as we put together standards. Or as we're doing assessments, do our assessments measure the things at the right levels? So I guess that's how I'm seeing it. That would be the way it would be, is cascading down and allow those goals to come back to be reflective, so that they're reflective of our mission and vision.
I guess I would just tag team on that. I memean, it kind of says, what does academic or organizational and academic excellence is what we define. What does that look like for the Standards Assessment Committee? What does it look like for law and licensing? What does it look like to finance? It helps to take that mission and vision and bring it down into the monthly work. Member Carey, further comment, discussion?
Maybe just a question, Chair. So where does this language end up? Like, where is it going to be in a rule? Is it going to be
It's part of the strategic plan, but focused on a committee. That would be the committee's part of the strategic plan. And then we'll still have top line. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then specific goals would come. Whatever that is, but then specific measurable goals would come under those, as they have under, previously there were just top line goals. This would also then have committee statements that would allow staff to formulate specific goals to help meet what the committee felt was important to focus on, just as they have in the past with, safe and healthy schools or early literacy.
So would it be fair to say that?
Go ahead.
Would it be fair to say that these, once voted on and approved, that these goals would apply to the next Standards and Assessment Committee? It would be applied to the next Law and Licensing Committee?
They would survive as part of a strategic plan, as the past one has, except now it has committee elements that try to help focus and frame that committee work.
Okay.
Where previously it was all at our level. So, these survive some turnover, and then they're reevaluated as we're doing. We've sort of been at this for the last year, I guess, including our mission discussions, but it would take on that same character. These are not rules that have the binding sense of, you went against the rule, right? They're a guiding statement, a
Right.
foundational sort of set of principles from which we try to set goals and then work and create. But there's a lot of flexibility in how you do that. Obviously, as we've done our work and some of us have come on and rolled off, we take on those guiding statements and say, okay, what do I see that? How do I see that? And so it would not be binding in that sense, but it would provide some continuity and guidance and vision. That
Okay.
would be the idea.
Thank
Member,
you, Chair.
Thank you. Member Klein?
So, based on experience, everything has to align, we've been told, to the strategic plan, meaning the strategic plan is our most binding document, and yet you're saying this is not binding, it's more guidance. So there are parts of the strategic plan that trump other parts, and so if it comes in conflict, two parts within the strategic plan conflict, does that mean staff will just crosswalk whatever the committees come up with to mesh with their more binding parts of the strategic plan, with all of their scaffolding and all of their kind of waterfall layers upon layers? I gave a whole board member comment on this, on the layers that are there under the four main goals that they've had that I don't believe are changing, that have been kept or are going to remain. And so all of those layers with under staff's, those four main goals that are existing kind of dictate everything that happens and make it so whatever the committees put forward don't really have any actual impact compared to what's already there. Plus, specifically when it comes to standards and assessment, if the standards are going to be amended as they come up to align with this language, those standards are on, the rules are on a 5-year cycle for review. I mean, it's taken us a year to try and put something together. The board, a full term for a board member is 4 years unless they get reelected. So that 5 years outlasts most board members. And then you get changeover halfway through that 4-year term with new members. And so to me, it looks like staff and what their objectives are outlasts whatever the board puts forward anyway. So whatever the board is promoting or putting forward most likely is going to fall by the wayside, and what the administrative state at our office, their agenda will continue to move forward regardless of what we do. And so I feel like this whole entire exercise is a waste of our time, other than putting forward what kind of the ideas that sound good to us, but will ultimately not have any real impact or on changing the direction or trajectory that things are going. And I know that sounds pessimistic, but that's kind of where we're at, and it's super fruitless at this point.
Thank you, Member Klein. I think we got to move to a vote. I see no further lights, so the motion then is Member Booth's amendment, which is on the board: elevate Utah educational excellence with academic standards and measurement tools which promote mastery of foundational knowledge, application of logical reasoning, refinement of literacy skills, and achievement of student goals. Please vote.
No.
Member Klein is a no. Member Hymas?
Yes.
Member Hymas is a yes. And that passes 11-3. The no votes being members Bogus, Carey, and Klein. So that brings us back to the underlying motion as amended. We have, let's see, the motion to strike K-12 passed. Member Booth's motion passed. Do we have a good mashup of the... I'm sorry, I know. No rush. I think since we've had 2 amendments, it might help to see the... Do we have the initial language, or let's see?
It's just what board member Booth said.
Supports the design of, well, is that the entire language then? It's a replacement? Okay. I thought that had to be fit in with.
Well, ask him. I thought it was
Member Booth, is your language now the full motion? Or I guess it would be Standards and Assessment Committee does what? Or we could just do it as it stands. Okay. All right. Well, that's more in the nature of a substitute, I suppose. And we approved that language. Does that then cover it? Okay. Even if it was a substitute? Okay, all right. So I mislabeled it, so we got to do it again. Fair enough. All right, so we voted on this, and I should have called it a substitute. The language was, we're just going to have to vote again. The motion then, in its entirety, is to approve this as the Standards and Assessment Contributed Goal. Elevate Utah educational excellence with academic standards and measurement tools which promote mastery of foundational knowledge, application of logical reasoning, refinement of literacy skills, and achievement of student goals. So please vote again.
Hymas is a yes.
Okay, Hymas is yes. Member Klein?
Again, this is just silly at this point. No, I'm a no.
Okay, Member Klein's a no. We need one more, and that passes 11-3. The no's being Member Carey, Member Bogus, and Member Klein. Thank you. Okay, back to you, Chair Booth. I believe that concludes that item, then.
We're done.
That concludes standards and assessment. Read it, know it, live it. Huh? Short break? Yeah, we finished our committee work. Let's take a 5-minute break. Not 7? Want 5? Okay, we've had a request for a 5-minute break, so let's do it, and we'll